Life, whether personal or organizational, can suddenly feel like it's off track. When things don't work out as expected, it's often a sign to examine the structures behind the apparent stability. Large organizations, like individuals, rely on systems and momentum. When those systems encounter shifting circumstances, pressure builds before it becomes obvious. Observing these changes closely can provide insights not just into financial health, but into sustainability, adaptation, and long-term viability. This story explores a ministry that once thrived on predictable growth and how subtle shifts in its environment created challenges that required urgent attention. A well-oiled machine. For decades, the ministry operated like a finely tuned machine. The model was simple: teach, reach people, receive support, then reinvest that support to expand reach. Television broadcasts, radio programs, conferences, and books created a self-reinforcing cycle. Viewers became supporters. Supporters funded more content, and the momentum built itself into a powerful flywheel. By the early 2020s, annual revenue exceeded $113 million, with expenses staying below that threshold. Surpluses grew reserves, creating a strong financial cushion. From the outside, the system appeared stable, with multiple revenue streams supporting global outreach and humanitarian programs across continents. Early signs of shift. Large systems rarely fail overnight. They slow first. Initially, the ministry's daily broadcasts continued, conferences remained full, and supporters still donated. Yet, subtle pressures began to emerge. The pandemic temporarily boosted donations across nonprofits, but as the world reopened, giving leveled off. Meanwhile, costs continued to rise. Production, travel, and salaries remained fixed, even as revenue cooled. The flywheel that once spun effortlessly began losing momentum. These early changes were easy to overlook but critical. They marked the beginning of structural adjustments that would ultimately affect financial sustainability and require strategic reassessment. Changing media landscapes. Television was the ministry's core engine for decades. Loyal viewers watched scheduled programs, becoming long-term donors. But media consumption patterns shifted, cable audiences declined, and younger generations rarely watch long broadcasts. Instead, they engage with short-form digital content, podcasts, and social media. While digital platforms can reach millions quickly, converting viewers into steady supporters proves far more challenging. The ministry faced the dual challenge of declining television engagement and the difficulty of monetizing digital audiences. The change in platform preference highlights the importance of adaptability. Systems designed for one era often struggle to operate in another without thoughtful reconfiguration. Donor demographics and giving patterns. Another structural change emerged in donor behavior. The core supporter base aged, many having donated faithfully for decades. Younger generations give differently, favoring short campaigns or targeted causes over ongoing commitments. Monthly partner programs, which had provided reliable income, became less effective as long-term engagement shifted. This demographic evolution, combined with rising operational costs, further slowed the flywheel. Revenue streams became less predictable. The ministry had to confront a fundamental question: how to connect with a new audience while maintaining existing supporters. Adjusting fundraising strategies and expectations became critical to bridging generational differences and sustaining long-term financial health. The financial turning point? The first year of visible change revealed a significant deficit. Revenue dropped slightly, while expenses climbed above $122 million, creating an $18 million shortfall. Previously, the ministry had closed a year with a $15 million surplus. Net assets fell from $77 million to under $60 million, showing that operations were now being funded by reserves rather than incoming donations. Withdrawals from endowment funds further reduced the long-term cushion built over decades. While operations continued, the financial shift marked a pivotal moment. The organization faced not collapse, but pressure, a signal that the existing model could no longer sustain itself without adaptation in strategic decision-making. Fixed costs and operational pressure. Large ministries operate more like media companies than typical nonprofits. Studios, broadcast teams, and production infrastructure are costly and inflexible. Even with reduced revenue, fixed costs remain substantial, creating ongoing financial pressure. Questions about spending, such as travel, logistics, and facilities, can amplify concerns among donors and the public, even if legally justified. Previous scrutiny had led to better governance, audits, and transparency. Yet, when the environment shifts faster than the system can adapt, the pressure mounts. Fixed costs amplify the effect of declining income, showing how structural design can either sustain growth or exacerbate challenges when conditions change. Public perception matters. Financial numbers alone do not define perception. When reserves decline and deficits appear, discussions about stewardship and spending return. Minor operational choices, like aviation logistics or administrative infrastructure, attract attention. Even well-intentioned expenditures can seem excessive in the eyes of supporters. Public trust and donor confidence can be affected by perception as much as by reality. Leaders must balance transparency with strategic communication, ensuring supporters understand the rationale behind operational decisions. Maintaining credibility while addressing financial shifts becomes a central leadership challenge during periods of systemic pressure. Transitioning from television to digital. The ministry's media ecosystem was designed for a television era. Scheduled broadcasts, predictable audiences, and monthly donor engagement. Digital media changes that model fundamentally. Algorithms, short-form content, and fragmented attention complicate audience conversion. While digital platforms offer reach, monetization and consistent donor engagement require new strategies. Building a digital model is a complex, experimental process that may take years. In the transition, the ministry faces a gap between declining traditional systems and nascent digital systems. Finding equilibrium between these two approaches is essential for sustainability, requiring both innovation and patience as audience behaviors continue to evolve. Adapting to generational giving, younger donors favor short-term campaigns and cause-specific contributions over ongoing monthly commitments. Traditional donor pipelines are less effective. Adapting to these patterns involves reevaluating fundraising strategies and rethinking engagement models. Digital campaigns, social media outreach, and targeted projects are increasingly important. The ministry must balance attracting younger supporters with retaining long-standing donors who value traditional engagement methods. Successful adaptation will involve flexibility, creativity, and responsiveness to evolving giving habits, ensuring that financial momentum continues even as audience expectations shift. Leadership and legacy. The ministry's voice and identity have been built over decades by a single leader. Leadership transition introduces complexity in an already shifting financial and media environment. A future leader must navigate evolving donor expectations, new media landscapes, and ongoing operational pressures. Decisions about strategy, cost management, and digital engagement become intertwined with organizational identity. Sustaining the mission requires aligning leadership with both current realities and long-term vision. Effective transition planning is as crucial as financial adaptation, ensuring the organization remains resilient and continues to serve its mission while responding to systemic change. Strategic choices ahead. The ministry faces several options to navigate current pressures: reduce costs, restructure operations, expand digital outreach, and experiment with new fundraising models. Each choice requires thoughtful change management and carries risks. Reducing costs may impact programs, while digital expansion requires investment without immediate guaranteed returns. Experimentation with fundraising may shift donor expectations. The key lies in strategic foresight, aligning financial and operational choices with the evolving environment. While the deficit and declining reserves are signals, proactive adaptation can stabilize the system, preserve mission impact, and lay the foundation for sustainable growth in a transformed media and philanthropic landscape. Conclusion: pressure, not collapse. The story of this ministry illustrates how even successful systems face pressure when environmental conditions change. Declining revenue, rising costs, shifting donor behaviors, and evolving media landscapes signal a need for adaptation. Deficits and reduced reserves are not collapse. They are indicators prompting reflection and strategic choices. Organizations must respond to structural pressures, invest in new models, and prepare leadership for the next phase. In life and institutions alike, sustainability requires vigilance, flexibility, and responsiveness. Belief and intent are not enough. Understanding the forces at work and making deliberate adjustments is essential to maintain momentum in changing times.